wish you a Merry Christmas, a Merry Christmas to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever and however you are listening, and welcome to the Valley Life Podcast, where we're taking theology from the classroom to the living room, storeroom, stockroom, showroom, workroom, weight room, and water closet. And welcome to a very special Christmas Day edition episode of the Valley Life Podcast. I'm Vinnie Hankey, lead pastor at Valley Life Community Church. Joining me today is our associate pastor, Mr. Kevin Bailey. Hey, buddy.
Hey, great to be here.
Thanks for being with me. If I were to say anyone is the embodiment of keeping the Christmas spirit every day, it is you, Pastor Kevin.
Yeah, I would say it's in my blood.
It is in your blood. It's,
born and raised in North Pole, Alaska.
That's right. You've got a leg up on the rest of us.
Nobody more Christmas than me.
That's right. And so in the spirit of Christmas Day and Kevin's origin, I thought we would dig into a little bit of church history and talk about St. Nick. And so we're going to borrow content because we're not creative here at Valley Life. We are resourceful. This is an article by Michael Haken that appeared on Crossway's website. It's part of their 10 Things You Should Know series. They do a bunch of these articles, great resources if you are sitting around or staring at your phone and not talking to your neighbors in line at the grocery store. These are great to pull up and just kind of skim through them pretty quickly. This one is 10 Things You Should Know About St. Nick. So maybe let's just start with the first one. There's actually very little historical evidence related to his life, to the life of St. Nicholas.
Yeah, so I did a little research to try and figure out where are we getting this information, because it really, there's not a lot mentioned in church history up until around the 6th century. The Crossway article mentions that tradition behind St. Nick really begins in the 6th century. The first biography, quote-unquote biography, doesn't come until the 8th or 9th century. So that's a few centuries removed from when he's said to actually have lived.
Yep. History does record that he was born in what we would say is modern-day Turkey there, in a city of Lycia. Yeah, which is southwestern Turkey, and eventually became the bishop of Myra, which is also in Lycia. Haken goes on to say that he suffered for his faith. So where's that coming from, or why did he suffer for his faith?
Yeah, so he's born during the reign of Diocletian. So Diocletian reigned somewhere 244 to 312. During this time, Rome is not at its peak anymore. So we see a long line of weak emperors who are kind of facing a lot of different things. One of them is the plague. We have infighting in the military, people vying for power. And then you also have the attacks coming from the barbarians. So what happens during this period of time is Diocletian, just like other emperors, like Nero before him, needs somebody to scapegoat. Who are we going to blame for all of these bad things happening to us? Because it certainly cannot be the emperor's fault. So the idea is they're going to look to somebody or a group of people that go against the empire, go against the gods of the empire, don't worship at the temples, don't worship to the emperor. So they find the Christians, the only people really refusing to bow down to the gods and to the emperor. And so the Christians start to see persecution, especially under Diocletian. And this is the Roman Empire that St. Nicholas is said to have been born into.
Mm. So essentially he suffers for his faith under, again, that political pressure. Okay. We're told that by Haken that he attended the Council of Nicaea. What's significant about that council, or why would that be?
Yeah. So from Diocletian, the persecutor of the Christians, we then see the rise of Constantine. So Constantine said to have a battlefield conversion. He sees the Chi-Rho symbol, and then in 313 he issues the Edict of Milan, which is going to say now Christianity is legal. So we see Constantine kind of go through this conversion and this sanctification process, and he's really involved in the church. So in 325, he calls a council to kind of settle some of the infighting within Christianity, especially around a guy named Arius. And Arius is probably one of the most prominent heretics within Christianity, even still to this day.
Yep. Which brings me to my very favorite thing, and it might be legend, could be true, but it is one of my favorite memes about St. Nicholas. At the Council of Nicaea, he is alleged to have just punched that heretic right in the face.
Yeah. So I mean, you can read different accounts on this, and you pick which one you like the best.
That's right.
But ultimately, there's no record of St. Nicholas actually being there. But at Nicaea, they call a couple hundred, probably somewhere around 300 bishops to come settle this issue. Arius gets up. Constantine's there sitting on his throne. You can look at these pictures, and they're great. Constantine's sitting there on his throne, and Arius is delivering his blasphemy. And Nicholas suffered for his faith, is said to have spent years in jail, and never bows the knee to the pagan gods or to the emperor. And he's listening, and he is getting so enraged. I think of my 4-year-old right now, right? This tantrum that she just cannot control. She cannot. So Nicholas is so enraged. Here's this bishop of the church who gets up, and he just cannot control himself, and he goes up, and one account will say that he slaps him, open hand slaps, which is an awesome one. The other one's a punch, less awesome, but still great, right?
Yes.
So he goes up and punches Arius, and yeah, so not only the bringer of gifts, but the slapper of heretics.
That's right. That's my favorite meme, is I'm here to bring gifts and slap heretics, and I'm all out of gifts.
Yeah, exactly.
Historically, we've got this interesting fact about Nicholas. It says that grave robbers are purported to have stolen his remains after his death. So history records somewhere between 345 and 352. He dies, and then he's buried in Myra. And then in 1087, his body is stolen by Italian merchants and taken to the Italian city of Bari. So what's significant about that? This idea that the remnants of a saint or the remnants of a Christian legend or lore would be stolen.
Yeah, so this would have been the time of relics, right? Where they're looking for these special pieces. I mean, everybody knows the Holy Grail, right?
Right.
You're looking for these pieces that are going to give some sort of supernatural power or carry some sort of benefit with them. And so St. Nicholas is said to have fallen prey to this. If you read about Charlemagne's sword, Joyeuse, is said to have a piece of the spear of Christ within it. So you would see this would be pretty prominent. And so the idea that his bones are stolen seems probably to be likely.
Right. Hagen says a forensic study that was done upon the reported remains of Nicholas in Bari in 2005 discovered that he was only 5'6".
Yeah, I mean, you say only 5'6". From a guy that stands 5'6", I think that probably would have been the average height worldwide back then, just as it is today. So all these tall Santas need to get out of here.
That's right.
Because Santa Claus was 5'6".
That's right. If you've
and
got
that's
that,
the holy height.
That's right. So if you've got that 12-foot Santa in your front yard this Christmas that you got from Lowe's, not historically accurate.
You need to kneecap it.
Kneecap it.
Shorten it.
Get that thing down. And probably easier if you are going to sneak down chimneys and crawl through windows and
You got to be nimble.
get into
you gotta
places.
Be small
That's
and
right.
nimble.
He's ninja size.
Yeah.
The eighth thing you should know about Saint Nick: hundreds of churches have been named after him.
Yeah. In the article, he says that Jane Austen's father actually ministered in England at a St. Nicholas church. He is one of the most prominent sainthood, partially because he was known for his generosity.
Yep.
There's a great story about him. After his parents die, he goes through this hard time, and he ends up at a monastery, kind of seeking refuge. And he gets an inheritance. And so he spends some time at this monastery, and he doesn't know what to do with his inheritance. And so he decides, spending time at this monastery, that he's going to go out and give away money. And so the first story of him giving away money comes from, he witnesses this poor father who has 3 daughters who are all of marriageable ages. So they're all old enough to get married. However, he would have had to have a dowry at this point in time. So he's got these 3 daughters. They can't get married because they're so poor. So Saint Nicholas goes and he gets some of his inheritance, and he gets some gold coins, and he puts them in a little thing, and he sneaks into this guy's window in the middle of the night, and he's said to have dropped the gold coins either in a shoe or in some socks that were hanging up to dry. So this is where obviously we get the stocking, right? So he gives the money, and then the next couple days he sees his father's able to give a dowry. One of the girls is able to get married, and then the second one needs the same thing, so he does it again, and then he does it again for the third one. And then on the third one, the father actually wakes up and finds him and then chases him down because he wants to thank him. And then he turns around and he finds out that it's Nicholas. And so he thanks Nicholas. And so Nicholas was trying to be discreet about his generosity, but it kind of became known that he was a guy that was very, very generous. Always in all the accounts, it shows that he's trying to give credit back to God, and he doesn't want to take the credit for himself. So the idea, if you're going to name a church after a saint, which is pretty common practice back in the day, St. Nicholas would be a great one to name him after.
Yeah. To make another Christmas connection, the hymn I'm actually preaching on for Christmas Eve is Silent Night. Silent Night was contrived by the bishop of a St. Nicholas church in Germany in the 1800s. The ninth thing you should know about St. Nicholas on this Christmas Day is that he is considered a saint by the Roman Catholic Church, and I would say he's considered a saint by the Protestant Church, but we consider all of us as saints. So why is that important to know about him or to understand the distinction when we say St. Nicholas versus how we might understand sainthood in the Protestant Church?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think it's got a good ring to it, and I think that's why we Protestants continue to use it. And even the idea of, if I'm not mistaken, I think Santa Claus comes from the Dutch take on Saint Nicholas. Yep. So I just think that we keep rolling with it. We don't give sainthood to people. We give it to everybody that's a believer because, thanks to Martin Luther, we have a sainthood of all believers, right? Kind of that idea reestablished. We continue it.
Yeah. When you think about the way the Catholic treats saints, right, it's kind of this veneration and this elevation, right? We would say that there are attributes of those people, like Nicholas, in terms of his generosity, in terms of his willingness to suffer for the faith. Those are attributes that we want to cultivate too within the context of our own Christian faith, but we don't elevate those individuals or those attributes above any other Christian.
Yeah, he had no special powers.
Right.
If we were to go dig up his bones and take them and put them in our stockings, they wouldn't fill.
They wouldn't dry faster.
Yeah, they would dry faster. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, we hold him in a high regard as a believer, just like we would hold Augustine in a high regard as a believer, but we don't elevate them to some super status.
Yep. And then finally, number 10, his story is probably what ultimately led to the story of Santa Claus as we understand it in the cultural celebration of Christmas.
Yeah. So what was the feast day? Was it the December 6th? Is the feast day?
Yeah.
Which, if you believe the accounts that are given, it's also the day that he's said to have passed, right? So there's a lot of clear connections, and this is where I'm a little bit shakier on my history of Santa Claus. But I do believe, like I said earlier, that it comes from the Dutch translation of Saint Nicholas. There's a lot of other translations and people that kind of get attributed or thrown together or hodgepodged in here. Father Christmas and in England and all of these other ones kind of get thrown in there. But yeah, the Germans and I think the Dutch are kind of the ones that kind of revive Saint Nicholas after the Protestant Reformation kind of pushes against the sainthoods. Yep. So we kind of see the revival, I think, from there.
Yeah. For bonus points and not connected to church history at all, but do you know where we get kind of our common cultural image of Santa Claus from?
Well, Saint Nicholas is said in his old age to have grown a white beard, but
that could be totally connected. Yes, not where I was going, but that's better.
That's all I have.
Yeah, so if you see the guy on the posters, the Christmas cards, and all that stuff, that's a message of marketing. Comes from the Coca-Cola ad campaign. They're the ones that came up with the image of Santa Claus as we know him: big red suit, big belly, ready, cherry cheeks, and all that business. So
yeah,
if you're a Coke fan, you can thank Coca-Cola for Santa Claus.
So there's a Tolkien book Letters of Father Christmas. Just got it. Haven't worked through it yet. But the opening quote is from Tolkien, and it says, "Oh, here comes Christmas." Something to this regard. "Oh, here comes Christmas, the one day that it can avoid commercialization, if we can keep it that way." And obviously, even our depiction of Santa Claus comes from commercialization. So, yeah.
Yep, something we can guard it.
The friendly polar bear, right?
That's right. I'm looking forward to it.
Santa Claus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Looking forward to it. Before we close out, any Christmas traditions, practices? You've got young, small kids at home. Anything you're like, hey, we're going to start this as a Christmas tradition in our Bailey home?
Yeah. We do the traditional, we open up a gift on Christmas Eve. We do Christmas morning. There's really nothing overly, spiritual or, influential that we do, except I think this is the big one is years ago, Lauren started making homemade cinnamon rolls for Christmas.
Yep.
So we wake up and we do homemade cinnamon rolls, and I think that's probably a picture of what heaven will look like, waking up to coffee and a hot, fresh cinnamon roll.
Excellent. Good man.
What about you?
We're going to start something new this year for us, but we've always done kind of a gift on Christmas Eve. Typically, probably since Noah was real little, we've done pajamas, right? So you can go throw those on and sleep in your Christmas PJs. But this year we're going to do, spoiler alert. Oh, this will come out Christmas Day, so it's okay. We actually bought a book for each of our kids and a coffee mug. And so we're going to give that to them on Christmas Eve. And then we're going to spend the evening reading until we can't keep our eyes open. And then I'll go to bed. So we want to start doing that as long as we have all the kids in the house.
Yeah, so I love it.
Yeah. Well, hey, we want to thank you for listening or tuning in on Christmas Day to share in the Valley Life podcast, or if it's afterward and it's the week of Christmas. We hope that we've clarified some things for you about St. Nick and Christmas time. If you want to ask a question for Kevin and I on a future episode of the Valley Life podcast, would you send us an email, info@vlccidaho.org. For Pastor Kevin, I'm Pastor Vinnie, and as always, God bless you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas, a Merry Christmas to you.